The first place I started to learn about Tom Herbert was an article that Rock and Ice came out with about him repeating Midnight Lightning with his son Tommy. And he's this jacked older guy, talks about him being a doctor, still climbing in his older life and obviously climbing very hard. Tom was at the forefront of sport climbing and was really into establishing hard sport routes back in the day.
He is an extremely gifted climber and was a force in climbing, much like his father, knew routing and pushing standards and also pushing ethics.
When Tom grew up climbing here, he was sleeping in the boulders with his dad in Camp 4. He was surrounded by a bunch of world-class climbers.
We lived in Oakhurst, which is just outside Yosemite. We would go to Yosemite every weekend, pretty much. Stay and my dad would climb. In the early 70s, he was climbing with still the guys from the golden age, Chouinard or Robbins, Pratt, Frost. I grew up listening to the climbers of the golden age talk about their climbs, their exploits.
TM was part of the very small crew of people doing something that had never been done. I mean, people didn't know if these walls could be climbed, and they certainly didn't think that you could improve on the styles.
TM Herbert, an iconic, true to the core Yosemite climber.
He's a legend. He's the real deal.
One of the stories my dad told was the Muir Wall. It was the 6th route on El Cap. He did it in 1965 when he was at the prime of his climbing and really didn't do many new routes after that.
Well, when you hear the Muir Wall, I think of Yvon and TM.
TM and I just got along good together, I probably ended up climbing more with him than any of the other guys.
Yvon's main mark was that he was pioneering the gear at the time. He was making hard metal pitons.
You couldn't do the climbs that we were doing without this gear. That's the best kind of business, is where you make addicts of your customers.
So when Warren Harding did the first ascent of El Cap, he took 8 months or something, fixed virtually the entire route, drilled tons of bolts.
When we thought about doing the Muir Wall, we thought, well, the next progression has got to be doing a first ascent on El Cap with just 2 people.
It was the first route on El Cap to be established as a team of 2 with no fixing.
And so that's where the significance of the Muir Wall really lies, in the fact that an encapsulated team took off from the ground and just continued climbing until they reached the top on a new route on El Capitan.
You pretty much had to forget about any kind of a rescue. If you're 4 days up, it would probably take somebody 4 days to get to you. Yeah, you're really cutting loose.
The incredible courage that TM and Yvon had to have had is just mind-boggling.
On, I think, the 3rd day, it started raining pretty hard. We had no shelter whatsoever. So it was a really, really bad night. None of us slept. We were shivering so badly and so cold that he actually asked me, said, how cold do you have to be before you die? And had I said, well, we're gonna die, that might have been it. I mean, it was that grim. I can't believe that we continued on the next day. After 4 or 5 days, get into the rhythm of it, you reach a stage where you start seeing everything more clearly. And TM admitted that it felt like this sense of really belonging there. You feel like you can just go on forever on the wall. We had the philosophy of climbing these things, but not really conquering them, but conquering yourself and leaving no trace of having been there. And so that was kind of like John Muir's philosophy. So when we got to the top, we had 0 bolts left and 0 water and 0 food, and perfect.
The Muir Wall was my dad's crowning achievement in rock climbing. This picture is Tuolumne, and this is Cathedral Peak right here. The skyline is the route that you saw all the time.
God, that was so good. You could do it without a rope, the easy route on it. You could do it without a rope. I would just solo all these things because it was just beautiful routes. In fact,
I think one of the reasons why TM is in some way obscure to people is that he was simply a climber. Whatever philosophies that he held in climbing, spirit of those philosophies was joy. Just to have fun, to be with your friends. He's always doing something and laughing and having fun. He's that guy. You know, the one guy or girl from every group that's always just having fun out there and just a blast and having joy. That's Herbert.
On so many occasions, people would say, "Your dad is so funny. You're just not. You're too serious." And I was, as a teenager especially.
Hey, look at this. Oh, no. This. Oh.
you're gonna kidnap me. You're gonna put me in the trailer and take me off.
I'm gonna kidnap you and put you in the
I knew it.
When I was young, my dad was my #1 climbing partner, and we did Half Dome together, Recondo Cap. Up into his mid to late 70s, he was going to Tuolumne every weekend, going for his hikes and easy solos. Life went on. I mostly sport climbed, had a family, went to medical school, residency, and it was clear that I was never going to climb El Cap again. And there was no way I was going to climb the Muir Wall. It's too hard.
Yeah. God, I can't believe it.
Half Dome,
Unbelievable.
Lower Cathedral, Middle Cathedral.
Yeah.
Bridal Veil. About 10 years ago, Sandra and I started noticing changes in my dad, becoming perhaps more forgetful, and we attribute it to age, as is so often the case. About 5 years ago, these changes became much more pronounced, where I became concerned, and as a physician, I've seen thousands of patients with dementia, and Alzheimer's is an insidious process. It's slow, and you, as a family member, you notice little things, but when you're that close, you make excuses for why. But even in my own dad, I was missing it, and being too close to that and making my own excuses. So what I got here, Dad, are pictures of the Muir Wall.
You just took that yesterday, right?
So this is you took this picture of Chouinard on the bottom of the Muir Wall.
I took this picture?
Yeah, 1965. And I've talked about the Muir Wall with him, and some days he remembers some, and there's sparks, and I can get little stories, and some days he has very little memory of that.
Well, God, we must have had horrible weather.
You did. You see all the water coming down right
Oh
there?
my God.
And there's your cagoule.
Yeah. Only fools would go and climb in the rain.
You didn't look like you were having a lot of fun at that point. 37 years, I hadn't done my dad's route. I needed to do this legacy, that my dad set. I needed to do his route.
And then like a switch flipped for Tom, and next thing I knew, he's teaming up with Roger Putnam and like climbing the nose, and then climbing Lurking Fear, and then climbing the nose again, and just like lapping El Cap.
I had a resurgence of El Cap. I hadn't done it for a long time, and when I met Roger Putnam, he wrote the Big Wall Guidebook. He's done almost 70 El Cap routes, and we started climbing the trade routes.
The publication of that guidebook and the name recognition which came along with that suddenly opened up this vast amount of really good climbers who suddenly wanted to climb with me. One of these incredible climbers was Brandon Adams.
Here's Brandon Adams, probably the foremost aid climber right now in El Cap. And Roger, and every time Roger and Brandon climb, they tend to set a speed record on the route.
Early July, I was like just dreaming of El Cap, like, man, can't wait to get back up there. What are Brandon and I gonna do next? And suddenly dawned on me, like, oh, the Muir Wall. That's the climb. That's the climb. And I was like, whoa, Brandon can do the upper third. Thin nailing in corners, that's what he does. I can do the middle third, which I've done a gazillion times. And Tom could do the bottom third, which is slow and laborious, but if you have it wired as a free climber, then that bottom part could go really quickly.
Knowing that TM Herbert had done the first ascent of the Muir Wall, Tom's dad, and then being able to do the Muir with Tom, I was psyched on the idea.
So I know that when those two guys hook up on El Cap, they're gonna want to set a speed record. But I know I can't set a speed record, I'm 51 years old, but I really want to do the Muir. So I said, yeah, let's do it, but I'll start training now.
Yeah, so a speed record on a route like the nose is so much faster because the terrain is primarily a lot easier to free climb, and free climbing's way faster. When Alex and I got the speed record on the nose, we were aid climbing like 4% of the route. Yeah, they're probably aid climbing almost all of it, really. And so they have to get really fast at aid climbing.
Don then spent most of the summer coming back to Yosemite to work the bottom pitches.
He just wanted to do this route that meant so much to him and meant so much to his dad. But he's got to be at the top of his game to tackle this route.
You know, Tom, he amazes me.
Working the Muir Blast, dragging people up the Muir Blast, so he had it dialed. Honestly, anybody who's going to be pushing a route on El Cap, you have to be willing to put in the work. You have to be willing to endure the pain in order to see the light.
And a lot of days I had felt too bad trying to ask for partners. Jug the lines, wrap down, midi track back out, try and get as dialed as I could so that I wouldn't let Brandon and Roger down.
But it was a rough go, I think, because he was here when the smoke, we had a lot of the fires last summer.
You know, when the air quality in California and Yosemite, the region in particular, was the worst in the world. Tom was up on that bottom third of the Muir Wall with an AQI of like 200 to 500. It was absurd. The effort that he put in was outrageous.
Finally, in early October, all the schedules aligned. The smoke was bad, but we were able to make a date. And then I started getting very uncharacteristically nervous about El Cap.
He was worried that he wasn't going to be fit enough or be able to climb it fast enough.
Just his own anticipation of what this was going to be and what this meant, and reflecting on, his dad, and for that reason it was kind of daunting.
I could really feel how important and powerful that would be for him to do the Muir Wall.
The morning of was nerve-wracking for me. But Brandon and Roger were jovial, lighthearted. And they're all giggling.
Man.
Yeah.
It's not an exaggeration.
What is it? It is 4:48.
I'm starting the stopwatch. Is ready?
You know it.
Get on it.
What Hans is saying, start out slow.
Start out slow, go, go, go.
Start up fast, can't last. Start out with a bunch of ash.
Start out fast, eat some ash. He's just like up there in the dark, climbing away. And then I just hear like, off belay, and Brandon and I like, boom, jug up.
Brandon and Roger, on every blade, you could hear giggling, like kids giggling. It was so lighthearted. As we came up towards Mammoth Terrace, there's the Heart Ledges, and there were friends on Heart Ledges that had bivvied there that night before.
Yo, Rizzo, what's up?
Roger untied, ran over on the Heart Ledge, gave a friend a hug, came back over and rejoined us.
Hey! Love you, buddy. So good to see you, man. Yeah.
Roger's walk was the second 1,000 feet from Mammoth Terrace up to the dihedral.
I don't really have any memories from that section, aside from just like being the machine. I knew that when Brandon took the lead, that he was gonna get to the top in a dang short amount of time. Starts cranking some metal on his phone, steps on my shoulder, starts the route.
Freedom of the hills, dude.
The corners up high are incredibly, like, architecturally perfect. It feels like a bit of a cathedral up there. These long, sweeping corners, tons of exposure.
The light of the sun comes in, it's like golden, even though it's like 3 in the afternoon because of the smoke.
Striking, incredible beauty and incredible glory. It was just a really good feeling to know that we participated in an ascent, which had this beautiful connection between, you know, the modern climbing style and the modern climbers and the golden age. And that connection was both in terms of, like, you know, our style and the route that we were on, but also, you know, that Tom set the speed record on a route that his dad put up.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, wild man.
We made it, dude. We made it. 12:07.
12:07.
Sick.
The official time.
And just what a spiritual thing that was to top out on the Muir Wall.
I think the Muir Wall was a life achievement for him in the regard of just being where his dad had been and Yvon had been on that first ascent, and kind of all brings it home, you know. I think it brought it home for him a little bit somehow.
The Muir Wall made such a big mark on my dad. They suffered so much on that, and they came close to dying on that. At a time when there's no rescues.
Like I climbed like a couple of like. That's cool. That's really cool.
Climbing the Muir Wall provided my dad a massive amount of closure. You could see it in his shoulders. There was a weight lifted off of him, I think, when he finally topped out.
My son and I put up a cool new first pitch, a direct start to the Muir.
And I thought that is a really awesome and unique opportunity to have a route going into the line of my grandfather's route. That's really special.
That's still bad. Yeah. Thanks. I'll leave it.
Whoa. Now, how long did it take you?
12 hours, 7
Yeah.
minutes.
How in the hell did you do that?
So
My kid thinks they believe all this.
yeah. So we did the Muir Wall and we set the record on the Muir Wall. But what made it special was, you know, that it was your route.
Oh,
And we did it, the speed ascent.
yeah.
It's your legacy. Despite the fact that, you know, I climbed El Cap lots of times. You know, I was able to finally do something that was special
Yeah,
in honor of you
yeah.
and what you did.